I'm getting ready to go out the dugout to start the bottom of the first. And as I'm coming, like my jersey pulls me back on the step and I turn around and Millar's right there and he's like, hey, you don't got any hair on your nuts if you don't throw Barry Bonds 4-seam fastballs down the middle and find out what you got. And I'm like, oh, all right, okay.
We were talking about the hockey game the other day, man.
Yeah. Oh, dude, sick, right?
Yeah, I thought we were the more physical team.
You fired up?
It was great. Well, I'm dual citizen, so I was winning either way. Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I was pulling Canada. That's like kind of like,
yeah.
But if the US won, you could go and say, hey, we won.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. Like, hey, God, this tough loss, guys. You know, like, it was good either way. That was awesome. I sat and watched the first couple periods with Randy Wynn and then sat at Oceans 44 and watched the rest of the game.
We went there that night.
Yeah, we were just there last night.
Oh,
what kind of a gut punch is that to Canada when USA beats them in hockey?
Yeah, well, like, you know, when you win like a round robin round, I get it. You know, it's exciting. You know, you feel like, like, oh, we knocked you off your tower. That's good, you know. But
dual citizenship.
Yeah.
I would say like it does kind of like grab at you a little bit because like as you can tell, like other than like a few people on like social media probably, like we win the tournament and it's just like, yeah, cool. If there would have been a parade
for USA,
oh my God, everything, yeah. And I get it because you're chasing like the best.
Yeah.
I mean, what's 40% of the league is Canadian or something like that, 45% of the league. So,
did you grow up playing hockey?
No. Oh. I grew up loving hockey, but the hockey rink was 30 minutes away from my house, and my mom was a young mom, didn't like to drive in the wintertime, and I had 2 younger brothers, and so she's like, I'm not doing this 5, 6, 7 a.m. practice for 3 boys and like in the winter. So she's like, you guys can either play hockey and nothing else, or you can play every other sport. And so I was like, well, then we'll just do that, you know? And then I started picking it up when I actually was playing. Yeah. Yeah, I was completely going against my contract.
Yeah. So you started playing hockey when you were pitching still?
Yeah, like I would skate, because I go home in the off season, all my buddies were in school or working, whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go skate and get in shape, you know, join a men's league or something.
That's gotta be good. I remember Shields would talk about the guy in Minnesota, Correa. I think it was Kevin Correa, and he would surf all off season.
Yeah.
And would get him in the best shape. Is that kind of like hockey, same thing, skating and all that?
I mean, look at those dudes, man. They're all shredded. Yeah. You know, their quads are like this, you know, and so like I was like kind of doing it as that is like conditioning. But like there was a couple times where I'm like, that was a bad, like I played in the NHL celebrity game in 2000 in LA. It was awesome. Like Alex Trebek was on my team, Cuba Gooding Jr., you know, Matthew Perry, all these guys, Tim Robbins, they're all playing.
Studs, dude.
Yeah.
What is that process for the baseball side in Canada? What is that process like in high school, trying to, you know, pursue baseball, maybe college or getting drafted?
You know, it's definitely changed, you know, as everything's evolved over time because now there's more eyes on everything, more programs in place. But at that time, it was a big, there wasn't a lot of guys. I mean, there was maybe like 10 guys from Canada in professional baseball. So, you know, I looked up to like the Larry Walkers. Like I knew about Fergie Jenkins, but he was already done playing by the time, you know, I kind of was getting into loving baseball. So you knew like Larry and, you know, Jason Dixon was a pitcher for the Angels that, you know, you kind of were like, oh, there's a guy, you know, and it was like that rare. Real Cormier and these guys. So then that kind of wave of me and Morneau and a few guys started to kind of come in. Rich Harden, it was a little after me, but it was go play and find a good program to play on. I played on this team called the North Shore Twins, and we kicked that. It was crazy, dude. We had a coach. He was like extremely, never talked about winning ever, never brought it up, never mentioned winning or losing in a game. Fundamentals, like ground balls, and make sure, you know, we'd hit 100 wiffle balls before you even got into the batting cage, you know, because he was like, he'd read a book or heard about Dominican players hitting bottle caps. So he's like, they don't strike out, we're doing this, you know, and so we were so fun. We'd go down to Washington State and play these teams, and you know, this team from Canada would come down, and we just throttled them. We had 5 years in a row a guy drafted in the top 10 rounds off of our high school team, including 2 first-rounders, and we had countless players go from Division I, junior college, everything. It was just like a fun. We were like travel early. We were travel ball before travel ball was a thing.
A lot of with the Canadian national team. I remember Brett Laurie. I was same age as him, so he would always play in like the WBC team when we were like supposed to be seniors in high school, and even from those amateur teams all the way up to the professional teams, I've gotten to meet Larry Walker, just being first base coach over there, and what a stud of a human being. I mean, it's so cool to see how he's grabbed on to the Canadian national team and how that group has grown, and it's a good squad now. But we were in Puerto Rico with Larry for 15 days.
Playing 3-card poker.
Yes, and then we were all and blackjack too. We were playing blackjack, remember? And everyone's rallying around Larry, and we're all in the minor leagues at this time. And Larry's betting, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a hand, and then he pushes chips in. I would say it was about $15,000 hand, and he loses, and everybody at the table is like freaking out. And they're like, "Oh, Larry." He's like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. I'll just sell one of my couch pillows and get that right back." This guy's the man.
I want to be you, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah,
but that's got to be cool,
He is fun to gamble with, though.
Yeah.
I gotta
man.
say.
I played in the golf tournament with him at the Diamante, and it's like it was me versus him. He ended up kicking my ass, but it's so much fun to just be around him. He's just a normal dude too.
You're laughing all the time.
The whole time.
He loves life. He's got like this incredible kind of journey that he's had, and he's just a blast. When you're talking about that, we did a Garth Brooks event. Do that Teammates for Kids event in Vegas, and we had a table going, and it was like him, Jeff Facero, Mike Hampton. Mike was asleep at the table, but he's still playing somehow. It was amazing. And
Mike's
myself,
jacked now.
it was
We
great.
saw him in Texas.
And Larry's buddy Chris Pollock, and when you're that big of when you got a good rapport with the casino, you get away with a lot of stuff, And like we were playing blackjack, and we were crushing this table, like just crushing it. I think like some guys won like a couple $100,000. It was nuts. And Larry would take a card. It was a single deck, or double deck, so you could touch the cards. And if he got like a 6, he just put it in his pocket. At the casino, I'm like, we can do that?
It's Larry.
Yeah.
Just let him go.
Yeah.
Let him go.
Yeah. And the pit boss be like, Larry, put the card back on the table. And I was like, this is gambling will never be the same.
Yeah, Larry's the man.
Yeah.
Last time I saw Larry, it was my last spring with the Cubbies, and it was 22. The Canadian team was playing against us to get ready for the WBC. So he's there on first again, and Larry, how's everything? Good, man. Where are you living now? I'm still bouncing around Florida, all over the place, whatever. How about you? Cabo San Lucas?
Yep.
I was like, okay, life's good, Larry. I see it. But that's got to be cool, man, for you guys, the Canadian players, especially to rally around Larry and see what that national team and the whole program is now, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he pretty much, I would say he single-handedly changed the dynamic of Canadian baseball, because he led into that, my generation, all of a sudden, and then we were playing in the, World Juniors and stuff like that. And you got kind of more eyes on you. And it gave us hope, right? Because when you're growing up in BC, it's like you're not going to play professional baseball. Like, that's just not a thing. Like, it's how come you don't play hockey? That's really what it's like. So I think it kind of opened eyes, like, oh, this is, not only is it a possibility to play, like a lot of those other guys, really good players, Paul Quantrill, great career, but like a reliever, I'm not discounting that, you know what I mean? But it's like,
You're out, dude.
hey, I've been there.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know.
But now all of a sudden you had this guy who's like winning the MVP, and he's like, the best of the best, 30-30 and all this stuff. And you're like, oh, it doesn't matter where you're from. Mm-hmm. It just matters if you're just good and you work hard at it. So like, yeah, he had a big impact on me, and he's, it's been awesome to have like now this friendship with him and relationship with him.
When did that realization come for you, where you're thinking, I might be able to play professional baseball. I might be able to play in the major leagues?
It's kind of weird. I would say the realization was probably when I was 16, but the dream was like when I was a little kid, like hardcore. Like my mom has a baby book, you open up the baby book, pre-kindergarten, what I want to be when I grow up, professional baseball player. My 7th grade teacher, we had like career day. I was just telling a story to somebody yesterday, and he was like so awesome, because like I was an ADD kid, I was all over the place, and like anytime I get rambunctious in class, Mr. Loudon would always be like, Ryan, take this book down in the office, He just like was ahead of his time and how to, kind of redirect you. He was so great. But he also coached me in baseball, and then I was like, career day, and we get up there, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a Major League Baseball player. And he's like, oh, that's so nice. Or like a firefighter, like your dad. That'd be a job too, So
bring it back down to reality.
So I was always dreaming that and wanting that, and like passionately dreaming it. But when I was 16, and then now I get to play in the World Junior Championships, and we're playing against Team USA, and they have like Canerico and Chad Green and Kelly Dransfeld and all these guys, and it was like, you know, okay, I can play with these guys, and these guys are going to get drafted. I can play professional baseball, and I can do that. Yeah.
Was there when I first came over here from Australia, it was 96 when I first signed, so around the same time as you probably did. Was there a sort of whack in the face moment where you got here and realized that you've come from being the best of your nation to there's 150 guys here who are better than me?
Yeah.
Is that the same feeling you had?
Yes, totally.
Just it was such a, you know, the excitement of signing, especially out of Australia. I was throwing 84 miles an hour when I signed, so it wasn't like I was blowing up radar guns. But then I got over here, and the first BP session I saw of rookie ball guys, they were just smashing the ball so much harder than I've ever seen. I instantly thought I might be in serious trouble here.
Yeah, that happened to me too. I was I was the second overall pick, and I got to spring training my first year, and I'm like, everybody's going to the big leagues here. I'm done. Like, this is wild how good everybody is.
That fast, too.
That fast, yeah.
What is it though, like when you're in Australia and people, you know, haven't come to the States yet, and people are talking about the quality of baseball over there? How is it hyped up? Were you just completely shocked, or did you kind of have an idea?
We got to see Major League Baseball. There wasn't a lot of guys that had been over there. A lot of the guys before me got to a certain level, maybe A ball, and then got sent home. So it wasn't until, I guess, my generation, a few of us broke through at the same time. We got Grant Balfour, Michael Nakamura, you know, Luke Hughes, Trent Olchin, a few guys got to the big leagues, and then all of a sudden guys thought, okay, like you said, this is a real option for guys. But it's still about trying to turn the popularity of the sport up a notch before you get to that level. The amount of numbers, sheer numbers of players that we get playing baseball, we don't get the best athletes. We just get the guys that are sort of looking for something else rather than Australian rules football or cricket. I assume it's the same in Canada with hockey and all the other sports you got to choose from. So it was just such a not a climate change, but just such a punch in the face moment. That's the best way I can describe it, because you are built up in your own country. You can see that you've got talent lining up with all those guys, but the minute you get over here, you guys have played a whole different level of baseball. We talked about your high school experience, college experience. We just play club ball, and we have a couple of academies that we're able to go to. So it's not, we don't get the exposure that you guys get here.
I couldn't even imagine that now for a younger kid too, because I mean, these kids in high school, whether you're going to the batting cage or going to throw a bullpen, you're bringing 2 duffel bags with you, and you got all these tools to warm up and all that. So I couldn't even imagine now, you know, being in that situation, coming over to the States, and you see how these guys are training, you see how these guys are preparing, and you're just like, damn.
Well, the world's smaller now too, so we have access to that sort of stuff because of social media, because of the internet. You see what other people are doing, but again, you've got to try to pick and choose what's going to work for you too.
It was funny though. In 1993, when I played in the World Junior Championships, I was 16 years old, and Glenn Williams was the shortstop for Australia, and like I was 16, and I'm like. And this kid was highly touted.
Big
He
time.
signed with the Braves for over $1 million.
1.6 he ended up getting,
And it was like, whoa, dude. Like, because we played Australia on the opening night, and I actually set a record that tournament. I was the only pitcher to ever give up 5 consecutive extra base hits. So, 5 straight doubles. And you guys kicked my ass all over the place. Yeah, it was tough, man. I went home, thought I was never gonna like that was a punch in the face moment. You know, at 16, and then. You know, and then you go, like you said, I think the first one going to spring training, extended spring training in Port Charlotte, and you show up and there's 60 people on the team. You know, everybody's got a number, and you're like, you're just, now all of a sudden you go from like, you're the big dog to like, you're just a piece of the puzzle. But I knew we had an optional team workout. It was a Sunday off, and our strength coach, Barry Hayden, goes, optional team workout tomorrow. And I was the only guy who showed up. And out of that 60 guys, I was the only guy that played over 1 year in the major leagues. There's a couple guys who got a cup of coffee. I don't know if those like coincide, you know, a little bit of like nobody else showed up. And in that moment, I'm like, okay, like I was intimidated by a lot of guys, and they were hitting the ball hard. Like you said, nobody in high school, like 1 or 2 guys in high school. Now everybody's just hitting the ball hard, you know? But I was like, okay, I know I can outwork them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was like, I know I can outwork you. I can do things that are going to make up for whatever lack of talent I might have in here. I can make up through hard work.
Yeah, and that goes to the top too. Like, Demp's the only guy that showed up, and that trickles up to the top, and the general manager and everybody knows that now. So
Where did that work ethic come from at so young? Because I was a train wreck when I first got, so couple the fact that everybody was better than me and my work ethic was nowhere near what it needed to be, I was not going to make it the first time I was here. Where did that come from at such a young age?
That's a really good question. What I thought it came from and what I'm realizing it came from, I'm still working through. You know, I think baseball was an outlet for me to get away from things. Like it just, you know, I grew up in a small town. We had a lot of freedom to go do what we wanted. I was the oldest brother. I got a little bit more freedom than everybody else. And so, you know, I kind of fell in love with like, oh, I could just run up to the field and join into this softball game that's going. Like, you guys need I would be that kid. I was like 7 years old. Like, you guys need a right fielder, you know? And that just trickled into like loving baseball. And then I just loved Nolan Ryan. I just couldn't get enough Nolan Ryan, like books, anything. And I started reading some of his books, and it was like all these things you hear about, like they're, you know, back before we had show flights, it was like they'd sit there, play a game. He'd go pitch 9 innings, and he'd open up the gym at 4 a.m. at the hotel so he'd get a lift before they'd fly out at 6:30 in the morning. And I was like, I'm doing that. If he did that, I'm doing that. And so, and then because of my journey to baseball in high school, I had to work hard because it was like a necessity. I didn't have the field right there. I took a bus from school at 2 o'clock. The bus dropped me off for the 2:30 ferry. I took the ferry over 40 minutes. I jumped on another bus. I ran off the ferry because I could catch the express bus. If I walked off the ferry, I had to catch the regular bus, and it was like a half-hour time difference, like on that trip to the field. Then I'd go to the field, and I had a teammate who lived by the ferry, and he would drop me off for the 9:15 ferry at night back home, and then I'd take that ferry back. So I spent, I would say, a better part of, I missed 75 classes a semester in high school playing baseball. Yeah.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah. Thank God to Miss Wilson, by the way. All my teachers fucking hated it, man. They were just like, "Oh, you're going to be a professional basebable player." Sure you are. Yeah. You know, and she's like, "Let the young boy do his thing. If he gets his schoolwork in, let him do." She was an English teacher, and she was just, you know, the best. But she was kind of that driving force behind all the other teachers. Like, leave him alone.
Yeah. He's
on the honor roll. If he starts to get bad, but and like. Really helped me out. But so that was like, and then it just was ingrained in me, and I knew it was like a default option. I could always outwork you if need be, you know?
That's interesting you say. I was going to ask this exact question. How many of you guys, that was your dream to play Major League Baseball, like as a little kid?
Yeah.
Like was it you?
Early on, yeah.
Early on.
Definitely.
And so and it was mine too. I obviously did not end up making there, but for every Ryan Dempster and Moose and Haas and Moilo who dreamed of it, a very, very small percentage of guys actually ever making it there. What do you all think, for you all, what is the separator? Like there are tons of, hundreds of thousands of people who dream of getting to the top who never get there. What are some of those separate? There's a lot of them, but what do you?
I think, obviously hard work and then just opportunity. You know, you need somebody to give you an opportunity to play and get out there and show what you can do with all the hard work you've put into the game, you know, and then just belief in yourself, you know. We talk about this all the time, you know. You're going to fail all the time in this game, but you got to continue to believe in what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot of it is the mental side, because I've seen so many guys we've played with in Kansas City system that their talent, they can easily be a big league baseball player, but it seems like when you get to that professional level, no matter where you're coming from, that's that first time where you really get that punch in the face, and you're just like, holy shit, this is hard, man. And you got to bounce back from that. And I think bouncing back from that is that key. For me, I see guys at the big league level. I have so much respect for guys that go through down years at the big league level and then turn it around the next year and have a great year, because I know mentally how hard that is to get over when you're making a big change, whether it's mechanically or just mentally getting that confidence back in yourself. So I think that's a big separator with the minor league guys getting to that big league level.
Yeah, I definitely, the ability to, like you said, deal with failure and how you process failure. I think all of the guys that I've been around, guys like, you know, these guys here all had 10-year career. Like, you have to be able to understand that you're going to fail. And like, you know, I see like the constant throwing the helmet after an out, you know, spiking their helmet on the ground. It's like, dude, go, like, if you don't believe me, go look at Baseball Reference. Like, the best of the best of the best of the best of the best 7 out of 10 times are making it out. So it's like, why are you getting so upset about something that, and that was something I struggled with in my career, was failure, and like, man, I just didn't get what, and I sometimes would snap, you know, go down the tunnel and break a bat or whatever, you know, and turns out it's probably from something else, but, you know, just channeling my anger in a different way. But to do that and to understand that, and I was lucky early on to have Harvey Dorfman. Harvey wrote The Mental Game of Baseball, the ABCs of Pitching, and he was a consultant for the Marlins, so he was around. And I'll never forget this. And I was, you know, I came up from AA. Jim Leyland sent me to out of spring training to minor league camp in 1998 before big league camp, or before minor league camp started.
What did you do?
I went to the beach. He told me to go to the beach and the track, so I did. Swear to God. He calls me in the office, right? And I just got my meal money. Bill Beck gave me the meal money. You know, I'm like, I was in A-ball the year before, and they traded everybody away from the Marlins. Yes. And they brought in all these young guys, you know, and poor Jim Leyland is just sitting here like, God, man, I just won a World Series, and now I got to watch all these schmucks pitch, you know? And so he calls me in, like, just bluntly, like, it's like second conversation I've even had with him. Like, I'm just so nervous. He's like, hey, you're not going to make the team, so we're going to send you to minor league camp. And I was like, oh, okay. It doesn't start for 3 days, because I knew I was going to minor league camp, you know, so I was well aware when it started. I go, what do I do? He goes, I don't know, go to the beach, go to the track, you know?
Both.
And I go, I can keep my meal money because I just got it, you know? It's like for the next week. He goes, hell yeah, keep that meal money. Good luck, all right? And send me out. Now 6 weeks later, I'm back in the big leagues, you know? And it's like, whoa, dude, like this is happening so fast. How do I, like, and so I was like struggling with failure, really failing, like getting my ass kicked nightly, you know, and like we're going into Atlanta to play the Braves, and it's Glavine, Maddux, and Smoltz. I'm 4-1 underdog every time, like. And Harvey Dorfman was like sitting there one day, and I'll never forget. We're in the dugout at Pro Player Stadium, and we're sitting just the two of us. I just finished running polls, and I'm sitting there, and I was kind of like dejected. He's like, "What's wrong with you?" I go, oh, "Man, I'm just struggling so bad, Harv. Who gives a shit?" He's like, "You're supposed to lose every game you pitch." And I'm like, what? Like I like broed up, you know? What do you mean I'm supposed to lose? He goes, pick up a paper. Every time you pitch, this is what I want you to do the rest of the year. When you pitch, pick up the paper and look at the odds. You are the underdog, you're supposed to lose. So learn. You're gonna lose every game. You'll be lucky if you win one game this year. I went 1-5. But like it was the most brutal, great, honest thing was, and then he just said, learn. Fail, learn. Fail, learn. Like, what did you learn in that failure moment? What did you learn in that success moment? But like, you know you're gonna fail, so don't be so worried about it. And it was crazy. There was another guy, Joe Fontenot, and we were like, we looked alike, man. We came up like within like a week of each other. And all Joe did, every bus ride, every plane ride, was complain about how he wasn't ready for the big leagues, and they rushed him there. And he just hyper-focused on that. And I just sat there and said, cool, man, I'm just taking this in. I'm gonna learn as much as I can. And that moment in the dugout changed my career, because, you know, when you're getting beat up like that. So when I went to the minor leagues, I'm like, yeah, cool. I went down to AAA and I dominated. And I'm like, because I'm, you know, now I'm supposed to win. This is great. Like, you know, right on. I'm in AAA now. Now I can win games, you know? So it was a really impactful conversation for somebody who, you know, kind of never really dealt with a lot of that failure in a sense. Like, you know, you always made it through it. And now all of a sudden I wasn't making it through it, you know?
I think also, sorry, Pete, real quick, what helps with that, you know, I had, when you were talking about beating the shit out of the helmet and getting pissed off, I think I had this moment while doing that, and I've noticed a lot of guys as they get older in their career, sometimes the helmet just gotta go.
I was going through so many helmets at one point. Like Davey was just like, Moose, like this got to stop.
Sometimes it's got to go.
Got to get rid of it.
But you definitely, and I remember just beating the shit out of my helmet one time, and it was because I like lined out, the guy dove and caught it or whatnot, and I'm just like, you're thinking, what the hell am I mad at? Like I did everything right. So then it kind of graduated to having a plan and having some kind of approach and game plan. And then instead of the results that drive you crazy, I would start to get pissed off if I deviated from my plan. So then I felt like I kind of evened it out or tamed up the snap moments. I've kind of, you know, trimmed that down a little bit. Yep. And I feel like players as well, especially on the position player side, once you kind of go through that and break through that like just anger, then you understand it's like, hey, once I kind of go away from my plan, that's when I start getting pissed off. And I felt like that helped me a lot, go through those snap moments and then stop doing that as much.
Yeah, for me too, it was like you're talking about a mental skills coach. Like I had Don Carmen, And when I called Don, was like after 5 years of my career and just been breaking bats, snapping helmets. He's like, I called him. I never thought I needed a mental skills coach. And it was kind of frowned upon early on in my career. But then I was like, I need this guy. And called him. I'm like, hey, Don, like, I need some help, dude. Like, help me out. He's like, well, what's going on? I'm like, I snap after every fucking time I get out. Like, I'm just getting so mad. I expect so much out of myself. And the clubhouse guy is getting pissed because he's got no helmets left, and I'm costing. I'm like, I'm breaking my bats. I got no bats left, and he's like, well, it's okay to be mad. Just stop breaking helmets. Like, let yourself be mad, and then after that happens, get over it and get back on the field and do what you're supposed to do. I was like, oh, like it's okay to be upset, but easy on the helmets, you know? Yeah. Like, turn down
the cigarettes are working. What do I go to?
Stop starting fires. That's enough. We had enough firewood. We're good, you know?
Sorry, Pete.
No, I was just saying, I hear Glavine talk about his first year and having the opportunity to fail. Do you think we still allow guys the opportunity to fail at the big league level and try to learn? Or there's a lot of quick triggers to send guys down and try to figure it out down there rather than at the big league level?
I think that no, we don't allow them to fail as much. Some organizations do out of necessity, right? They're not necessarily as competitive, so they're like, okay, we can run you out there. Like, that was such a gift that I got. Looking back,
timing wise,
like you talked about opportunity. That was an opportunity to know I was going to pitch every 5th day. Like, I'm not getting that opportunity I was drafted by the Rangers. I get traded to the Marlins. Like, if I'm still with the Rangers, at that time, they're like, they're going to the playoffs. I'm not getting that shot at all. One bad start, you're out. Like, you're with the Yankees back then. Like, see ya. Like, so like to have the opportunity of just making a start and knowing I could get a routine and see and create that foundation of what's a workout like in between. What do I do for my bullpens, and kind of have that. Even though I was failing, I was building this foundation of like, this is what it's going to take over time. And then now all you have to do is correct that on the field and get better at executing pitches and that kind of stuff. But the opportunity of having that was so massive to be able to do that. And I think it's unfortunate right now what they're doing a little bit is that I understand at the big league level because wins are so valuable and they're so important. And you're talking about a franchise, billion-dollar franchises that are trying to win championships. But in the minor leagues, why do we not afford them the opportunity to be pushed and fail a little bit? Like, we're taking the best. We were all the best at some point, right? Like, from where we're from, high school, whatever it is. And then we're like, okay, now just like, we're just going to hold you in the stable here. Just a little bit, I know you can run a bunch, but we're not going to let you do that. It's like we got Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Porsches, and we're just driving them in a loop around the cul-de-sac. It's like, run them. Look at these guys. These guys are bigger, stronger, everything. Physically. I went to the concert last night and I'm standing around these dudes. I'm like, geez, man.
We've said that every dude that's walking here.
Like, sometimes in my head, I'm like, I can make a comeback. And then I see that. I'm like, I can't make a comeback. I tried that. Haas saw it. You know what I mean?
The gap, no big deal. I wasn't part of the 5 consecutive, but I was one of the nubs in the gap. Which was amazing too, because I mean, you're a comedy guy, which we will get into, but when I faced Demp, when you came back for the WBC, I mean, you were basically doing a comedy skit on the mound. And we're like, this is awesome, dude. Talking to himself out there. Peavy was a guy that talked to himself out there.
God.
Some of you guys, the OGs, man, just listening to your internal conversations, that was awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a big league pitching coach. I wouldn't want to, if I ever had a role in the minor leagues or in an organization as far as player development, I would say, give me all your pitchers and I'll build you Clydesdales, man. I will build a bunch of guys. Now, I don't know if teams don't want that because it's financially unaffordable to have a bunch of guys throwing 200 innings and up there for Cy Young,
Yeah.
Well, I just want to highlight before we move on to the topic around failure, just because it's just what all of you said is something interesting. So Kobe is iconic, or was iconic, for his relationship with failure. And I always loved this axiom that if you want to learn how to be successful, you need to strengthen your relationship with failure. And I think learning how to fail is one of the key hallmarks of the best athletes in the world. And there was this college basketball player, and she was great, and she's really close to Kobe. And she had a terrible game. And she called up Kobe feeling bad, and then Kobe says, all right, let's look at your tape. And she's like, no. He's like, what do you mean, no? And he goes, that's how you get better. You literally have to go back and look and stare at your failures. That's exactly what all of you just did. I think a lot of young players, when they fail for the first time, it's such a visceral, emotional experience. They don't want to relive it over again, so they want to push it away. And the things that you resist persist. And so it just haunts them, and it just like comes back at them. The more you try to push, and I don't want to look at it, the more it comes. But all of you said, I stared at my failure. I looked at the probabilities. I looked at what I'm doing wrong. Why am I slamming my helmet? Why am I viewing this? You create this new perspective around it, and that helps you manage it better. Yeah, you're still going to get frustrated, but maybe you can turn the volume down. And we always say you're not going to go from 10 to 0 and eliminate the frustration, but let's turn the volume down a little bit so it doesn't affect you.
Can you imagine if all the guys playing nowadays, like, the social media, right? That's a big challenge, right? Imagine that. If they just every once in a while just posted an out, like a 4-3, just like instead of the home run, just a 4-3, just to highlight. Yeah, tag it, the grind. Now we're getting real. Now you're coping with your failures instead of like everything's great all the time. No, it's not, man.
So true.
We used to call it the jungle out there.
The jungle.
I had a picture of Milwaukee, dude. It was first to home. I was running and got thrown out at home, and I just like this, lying out, and there was a camera in the sky, I guess, and they got me right above there, and I could just go, the jungle's real, and it was just, it was tough. But you know what, man? To your point, it's harder for players to do that, because I vividly remember my rookie year, first couple years in the big leagues. It's like, all right, man, like before or after the game, say after the game you're struggling, you go to the video room, you're watching it, you leave the stadium, and it's done. Some of these guys, man, the Cubbies, all these guys, you can just pick up your phone to look up Twitter, all these apps, Instagram, and that could be the first video that pops up is you up or you doing something that didn't help your team win. So it's very hard to get away from it for these young guys.
Yeah, no doubt. And like, it's such a huge part of their life now. Like I have teenage kids, so I watch it, but like, just for the players to manage all that is something that we didn't have to do. You know what I mean? Like we would have because of what's in here. Like, like when people say, oh, man, that era, you couldn't, this person couldn't, sure. What are we talking about? It's not about physical. You said it, how many guys in the minor leagues are physically good enough to be big league ball players? But something happens, whether that's an injury or whatever it is, but like a lot of times it's between, it's mental. It really is. And like how to overcome a lot of those things. I truly believe that. So like those guys deal with an extra little bit of stuff going on with social media for sure.
No, they do. They do. Damn, going back to the playing days, I'm from South Florida, Marlins guy. I used to love watching you guys grow and while I was growing up playing. But you're right. They, those teams, the World Series teams, they won and then they traded everybody else and it was like a fresh restart. But I mean, what was that group like? And Pinella, Dusty, you play for some iconic managers, Leyland again too, and he's a legend. I got to play with him. He was the manager that year after
WBC.
Leyland's the man, dude.
Yeah. No kidding, hey?
It was unbelievable. Yeah. Being able, when he was with Detroit, we'd walk around and just hang out with him. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is like, because I always gravitated to those old school managers. I was like, I want to hear these stories, dude.
Yeah.
And
he was funny. He just, and like, it was weird because I've always appreciated blunt honesty. Like maybe not in the moment, like when somebody says it, I'm like, really? And then I'm like in my hotel room and I was like, he was actually telling me the truth. But like Jim was a lot like that. It was just to the point. I don't have time for semantics here. It's just like, here it is. And I was pitching a game in Montreal, and I always pitch well in Montreal, undefeated in my home turf. But
humble brag.
So yeah, humble brag. Yeah, sorry about it. And, sorry about it. And I was the fourth inning. I was winning the game 3-0, and I'd won out in the bottom of the fourth, and I walked the 8-hole hitter, and the pitcher came up, and I just had a mental fart, and he was trying to bunt, and I, now I'm aiming the ball, and I walk him, and here comes Jim Leyland. I thought he was coming to yell at me, and he's give me the ball. I'm winning 3-0. This is pre-matchups, so it's like this is very rare for a pitcher, and I'm like at like 60 pitches too. It's not like I'm at like at 100 or something. And so then I get out of the game. We end up winning the game. The next day, I'm running my laps at Olympic Stadium, and he's having a heater in the dugout, just sitting there, just puffing away on a heater. And I sit down like right there, and he goes, "I yanked your ass in a hurry yesterday, didn't I?" And I was like, "I know, man. Like what? So I didn't even give up a run." He goes, "Well, don't walk the 8 and 9 hole hitter to face the leadoff guy. What are you doing?" And then he got up and walked away. And I was like, great advice.
Yes, that makes sense.
That's what we need.
So he was just, I played for so many great managers, Dusty and Lou, and Lou was a character at that point in his career. He was more of a caricature, real life character. Like I never sat in the dugout until Lou Piniella was the manager. I was like, I'm gonna miss something if I'm not down there,
Snap.
Yeah, or just like some random weird thing he was gonna say, Like I remember one time we needed a pinch hitter, right? And Alan Trammell was the bench coach, and he's like, we need a righty to hit. Somebody get a righty up. And he goes, what about Reed? And he goes, Reed? Who's Reed? And he goes, Johnson, the outfielder. He goes, oh yeah, Johnson, get him ready to go. Like that was a daily occurrence.
Oh my God.
But we also we were just allowed to play.
Yeah.
Like he understood, as a manager, I think, rightfully so, they get some honors, but like the good managers just let their players play, and Lou was really good about that. All the managing was done before the game ever started. Then you just manage the bullpen or whatever that is, and Lou was really good at that. But Dusty was great. It was awesome to be. Those Marlins teams were unbelievable. Like you look at those teams, we had that 99 team. If you look at the 1999 Marlins, the year after 98, because 98 there's still some holdovers, like
right.
Glavine was still there, and Renteria and stuff like that, Charles Johnson. But then once we got rid of everybody, and you go down that list, and it's like Mike Lowell at third base, Alex Gonzalez at shortstop, Luis Castillo at second, Kevin Millar and Dealey at first, Millar and left with Cliff Floyd platooning, and then Preston Wilson, Mark Kotze, myself, Brad Penny, AJ Burnett.
Wow, staff was loaded.
And it was great. Every guy got, like, think about this. Out of that, we are a whole entire starting lineup and 3 starting pitchers are full pensioned.
Wow.
Off of one team as a bunch of rookies.
Wow.
Yeah. I'd say there should be a documentary made about that team. Like you find another team,
Moonball.
It's like, holy cow. Like you start to look at it. And then on top of that, now we get done, right? And like myself, Cliff, Kevin, Mike Lowell, we're all at the network. Preston was there for a little while. Kotze's managing in the big leagues. You just start going down the list. Council's managing in the big, it's like, why did that particular group of guys, I think we all just gelled well together, and we knew we were going to get our butt kicked, but we didn't care. We partied every win like it was like we're going to playoffs.
Awesome. Yeah.
We go out in South Beach and we're like, we're at the Marlins, and they're like, not those Marlins. You didn't win the World Series. You just got swept by Philly. Go to the back of the line.
Same with the Boston team, man.
Yeah.
And that's we understand that more because that's when we first got to the league. But I mean, Peavy, Napoli, Gomes, Rossi, you just keep going through that 13 team, and it's just star-studded. Not only star-studded, like just some of the best dudes that are known in the game, like guys with the best personalities. So I remember Peavy telling stories all the time, him being up in the guitar.
Yeah.
And you guys, I know you have the comedy stuff you love doing, which, by the way, were you a mic guy? So a mic guy on the bus, for everybody that doesn't know, because we brought it up a couple times, when you're on the bus rides and you're going to the airport, you're going the stadium, airport, hotel, there's a mic guy that gets on the microphone in front of the bus, and it's basically a show. Did that kind of give you the confidence to do the comedy route? And I know it went all over the place there, but
Yeah.
Did that give you the confidence to do that improv and all the comedy stuff?
Yeah, no doubt. Like I found this out a couple years ago. I ran into an old babysitter. She just babysat me when I was a little kid. And she's like, when I found out that you became a Major League Baseball player, I was like, oh, really? And then your uncle told me a couple years ago that you were doing stand-up comedy and hosting a talk show. And she goes, oh, yeah. She goes, we would be having dinner. You were like 6, 7 years old, and you'd be standing I'd try to get you off the table, and you're telling jokes. As like a 6, 7-year-old. Like I've just always been that way. So like I lived for the mic.
Yeah.
I was the obnoxious mic guy, like 3:30 and dudes are trying to sleep, and I'm like, you're not sleeping. Sorry, man. You're going to have to be mentally tougher. You're going to have to get through this.
We got
What was the
tennis.
skit on the mic? Would you go like whatever city you're in, you give a little tour?
Tour guide, really, really good tour guide, because, and it was an honest place too. Like my hotel room was a place to sleep. That's it. Like my first time going to New York to play the Mets, I gave my bag to the clubby and I said, see you later, man. I'm going to Times Square. Like I love getting out. Like
From the early in your career?
Right away.
Really?
Very first trip, yeah. Always. Like, I was that way in the minor leagues. Like, it was like, oh, there's something going on. Let me go do that, you know? Like, let me go find, there's a concert? Cool, I'm gonna go to the concert. There's a hockey game, I'm going to the hockey game. There's a basketball game, we played a day game, I'm going. I just love getting out. I love finding new restaurants and new bars and new clubs, like you know, comedy clubs, or you know, going to see a show. I've seen 30 shows while I was playing in Broadway. I just love that culture and doing that stuff. So like, it was a genuine, real thing where I'm like, I'm the tour guy. I could work the red bus tomorrow if you guys want. You know what I mean? Vince Vaughn it up there. You know?
Yeah, dude. How cool is that though, Demp? When like that Boston team, when you go and you're doing that stuff, and all of a sudden 5, 6, 7, and then before you know it, you got 15 guys there that are going to every dinner or finding a room to go to and just hang.
Yeah, it was incredible, and a lot of that was spurred. Johnny Gomes was probably, I mean, he was the Gomer, as you guys know.
Yeah.
He's incredible at that
Unbelievable.
stuff.
We in Detroit, real quick, we go, this is the first story. I end up stealing people's stories on this. So Gomes and I, we get in Detroit, and Jabba's having a bunch of people over. We get in at like 1:30, guys want to play cards, nowhere's open. So Johnny and I are rooms next to each other, and we're going to Jabba's room. And we get on the elevator, and Johnny grabs like a plant just like that and just holds it. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, you never show up to a party empty-handed. So he knocks on Jabba's door, and he goes, hey, buddy, thanks for having us. And gives him the plant from the lobby, dude.
Oh, my God, he's the best.
Man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he, like, I remember first full day of workouts for, you know, and you guys have probably heard this because he probably dropped it in Kansas City too, but, and we're having our first day of workouts, and he goes, I go, Johnny, how you doing today, man? Another day closer to the parade, Ryan. Yeah. And that is a great saying. You know, like, I'm a big believer in willing stuff into existence. Like, talking about it is healthy, and putting it out there. And that team, that kind of started that. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, we're going there, huh? And he goes, yep. And then just left to the cage. And I'm like, and the rest of the time, it was like we started making T-shirts in like April with duck boats on them. You know, asking guys to pick out their duck boat color for the parade. Yes. Like, Peavy showed up in the trade in August. He walked in the clubhouse. He hasn't met a guy yet. The door open. He's got a White Sox bag on his shoulder. Johnny goes, you picked the color of your duck boat out yet?
He is a beauty.
Yeah, and it was just like, we stayed up later than anybody in the league, but we never went out a lot.
Yeah.
We had epic 4 a.m. hotel, Peavy playing the guitar, you know, like, Rossi sent me a picture the other day of me wearing, I forgot about, we were in New York, and the Domino's delivery guy showed up on a bike, and he had all these pizzas. It was like 3 a.m, and I got his helmet on. You know? Like, I bring him up to the room, come on up, you know, and I'm like, let me see your helmet, you know? Johnny and I took Peavy's guitar. I don't play the guitar very well at all. And we went to Times Square, 4 o'clock in the morning. And sat there in Times Square with the guitar case open, and I'm just making songs up for all the signs of the Forever 21 and Disney Store, and I'm just making songs up. Me and Johnny and some Yugoslavian lady that comes there and stays for 1 hour every night between 4:30 and 5:30 before her kids get ready and get up for school, so she doesn't have to wake them because she cleans at night, and she's just sitting there with us, just talking. It was unbelievable. I'm like, I'll write a song for you. Tell me about Yugoslavia. Let's go. You know?
Dude, definitely.
I never made $1. Not one person. Pikachu wanted pictures and stuff. You know.
No respect.
Yeah.
No respect in that city.
I've done that, by the way. That's a great gig, by the way. If you ever want a really funny gig, go to Times Square. When like Mario and all Optimus Prime want to take pictures with you, and you take a picture with them like this, you know, and then they're like, okay, $20 or whatever it is. And I'm like, no, 50. 2-time World Series champ. You know what I mean? Personalize it for 100. You know, how do you spell Pikachu? You know what I mean? They get so pissed.
2-time, baby. 2-time.
Two-time.
Anybody can win one.
Yeah, 2 times. Yeah.
Johnny, first day in Kansas City, gets out of the weight room, comes in there. Johnny, what's up, man? You in there today? No, not enough on the line. Just kept it moving right on to the next one.
Yeah.
So do you really believe in that? Some of the biggest development and learning, I think it comes from off the field, man. It comes from those nights in the room when you're having pizza and the guys are joking around. And like that, to me, is when the message is sent the most. I really feel like.
Oh, it's. I mean, any team like NFL, NBA, even military teams. My time in the military, when I sit with these different platoons as they go out, they say some of the best moments of team camaraderie is when they're playing dominoes or playing cards or messing around away from the battlefield, because that's when they build those relationships to be able to. That's when you know, obviously, who you're going to have in the foxhole, who's going to be there with you. You get to know about each other's dreams, fears, family members. And they're like, all right, you're building that strong relationship to be there literally for them while bullets are flying. And I love hearing these stories, because these are the things that everyone shows up, pay their money, grab their popcorn, and they think, oh, this is the only time, not obviously you're not together, but they have no idea all of the relationship equity you're building in the clubhouse, on the planes, in the buses, and and then the friendships that you have for years, even after playing, like calling up and recalling these memories. I just think it's so cool to hear and listen.
Yeah,
to
I mean, we had a group text going for 8 years going after we won that World Series, like with everybody on there, and like you talked about that team. If you go to look at the stats of that team, Big Papi hit 30 home runs. Nobody else on the team hit 30 home runs. That was it. David was the only one who had like a killer season. It was like 15 homers, 20 homers, 15, 18, 25. Knapp drove in a bunch of runs, Petey had a good year, but he also got hurt that year and stuff. But it was just a lot of caring about each other. I love that, because like even just this, right? Like I know you guys, I just meeting you, and like I already think you guys are awesome. I'm gonna leave here more invested in you guys because we're having conversations together. So like the more we continue to invest in each other, the more we care, the more I'm gonna be there high-fiving you when you come off of a big, scoring a big run. That means something. When you come in the dugout and you see a starting pitcher high-five you, like
It means the world, dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not up getting coffee, sitting there like on your phone. You're like high-fiving, I'm not looking at an iPad in the dugout while you're raking, like now I'm invested, and it becomes like almost like a marriage, a relationship where you're trying to do this, and that team to this day, like, I mean, the bond that we have is crazy. And obviously with the Boston bombing and all that stuff, the finish line and the Boston Strong stuff, and how that just organically.
That was all that year as well. Holy cow.
Yeah, I started that day.
We
were there.
Yeah.
So Nava hit the homer against us in the
Off
8th inning.
Kelvin Herrera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We flew in that day.
I'd never wanted to lose a game
So bad.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just the way that all came like
It's the
out.
weirdest feeling.
Yeah.
And Poppy, what the thing was, that wasn't planned with Poppy, right? When he grabbed the mic and he just,
He left the clubhouse, said, I don't know what I'm going to say, but you're not going to want to miss it.
it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I got
It was
chills
not,
right now.
written. It was nothing. It was just from the heart, and it really was, because it was crazy. Like before you guys came in, did you guys come in on Friday? Because we were going to play Friday, remember? But they canceled the game.
Yes.
Yeah, we were there for we got in that night, there for one full day, game next day. So
Yeah, and like the town was a ghost town.
It was.
Like I remember, because I went to the field not knowing if the game was going to be canceled or not, and like I could hear newspaper like on the street. There was no cars, no nothing. It was like crazy. And then the next day, like after they catch the guy that night on Friday night, and then there's like a parade down Newbury Street. Everybody's going down Mass Ave. Here we go. Like we're celebrating. And the next day at the field, and you want to talk about like the power of I don't know what the power is. The power of like invincibility almost. Like we had this certain cloak of invincibility, because when we walked in the clubhouse the next day, and you have the head of the Secret Service, you have the governor of the state, you have the mayor there, you have the chief of police, you had a Navy SEAL team, you had a Special Forces team, you had we were shoulder to shoulder like this in our locker room. Like I'm trying to get changed, and I'm trying not to like put my naked rear end on somebody. Like it was so tight.
Your gun is sticking in your head.
But it was amazing. And I just remember, and somebody in the locker room turned around and said, look around, can't lose. It's impossible. Like there was such a feeling throughout the year of we can't, because you had like this such drivable force of defense behind you. It was bigger than just us as players. It was the city of Boston. Then it was knowing that everybody had our back,
As a fielder, man, when Nava hit that home run, it was the weirdest feeling. It was just kind of like, this is supposed to happen.
Yeah. It was destiny.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, like it's supposed to happen. It was incredible. I remember just standing on the line, just watching before the game. I was like, it's gonna be a tough game. Like, try and find a way to win, but if we lose, it's destiny.
Yeah, I mean, it really, you think about it, and then look at like the the playoff run we were on. Like, you know, from Tampa Bay, we disposed of them pretty easily. But not necessarily. Like, there was some stuff in there that, like, that series was 4 games. Peeve started game 4, and we came back and won that. Detroit, we got no hit into the 8th on game 1, lost that game. Anibal Sanchez took a no-hitter in the 8th. And then the next night, Max Scherzer no-hits us through 7. Wow. Back-to-back games.
Damn.
And like when Jim Leyland went in, sorry Jim, I love you, but when he went and took out Max Scherzer, we were all like, yeah,
we win
finally. Yeah. And then the Benoit Grand Slam, Poppy, that moment, like you know,
that was crazy. Yeah, man. That was crazy.
And I mean, he's just bred for those moments. You know, it's like one of those guys. Like, I feel like this about big moments like that is that when you're a player and you have a big moment in a big situation. Like, you know, like, why do guys always come through, right? Like, there's those guys, the clutch players. Why do they always come through? Why does Michael Jordan hit the shot? Because he has hit the shot. And so then he's like, oh, okay, I've done this now. Whereas, like, just the culmination of trying to come up with the big hit or have the good game pitching, you know, that you maybe put too much pressure on yourself. And then once they hit it, it's like, okay, cool. Give me that. Yeah. You know, it's like, I want that again. And that's David, man. Big Poppy was the best at that. It was like, you know, facing like, you know, myself, my 37-year-old self in like the 8th inning, he'd be like, whatever, pop up, you know, game on the line, facing like the nastiest of relievers. He's like locked in, laser off the green monster. It's like, this is what he lives for. The other stuff's too boring.
Not enough on the line.
Not enough on
the line. Dude, I could go on for days about Johnny. Just the amount of like him yelling at John Farrell. We're playing the A's extra innings game. Luke Gregerson's out there pitching, and he pitches the 9th, and then he's going out for the 10th, and Johnny's pacing up and down the dugout, going, "Hey, Coach John, if you want the game to end, just put me in." Swear to God. And John's like looking over his shoulder and he's like, I'm just saying we can keep playing extra innings where you put me in and the game's over. And sure, he goes, fine, go hit then. You're hitting second. Hanging slider over the monster, and then he punted his helmet like 20 rows deep.
I remember the punt.
Come around third base. He came around third base and Brian Butterfield going, get the f*** out of here. That's what he told him. And he punted his helmet.
Baby. Johnny Gomes is So the biggest thing that I learned after playing with Johnny Gomes is you see him from the outside, and I think people think he's a lunatic, loose cannon. But when you see, and you're sharing a clubhouse with him, this guy is locked in 24/7 and loves baseball. To this day, I got to do some stuff with him with FanDuel on the media side, and this guy is 2 iPads, locked in, knows the numbers. I was so impressed on being his teammate.
And teaching.
Make sure everybody's comfortable around him too.
Yeah, 100%. And like, even like, I remember Will Middlebrooks. Will is, you know, a young guy. He was his 2nd year, and like, he got kind of like rode a little hard by guys. Guys kind of like gave him a little bit of rookie, because he had a little, you know, little chest out sometimes. And it's like, hey, dude, we got Big Poppy on our team, and we got, you know, Dustin Pedroia. Like, you know, get the beers for the bus. Like, you know, like, but like Johnny would be the first guy. Johnny would be the first guy to take him down the cage and be like, let's go. Here's tonight's pitcher. What do we got on him? Like, that to me is like the ultimate teammate.
Yeah.
Like, just always trying to make the other guys better.
That's exactly who he was. He's the ultimate teammate. He's the guy you wanted with you every single team you're on.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Dan, real quick. So being on the executive side and, you know, building teams, putting together, or just having a say and putting together staffs and stuff, guys like, you know, not necessarily Johnny, but guys you played with the personality, old school, that, you know, maybe don't believe in analytics or whatnot. How would you kind of be the bridge guy of that old school, you know, Leyland, Dusty Baker, Piniella to today's game? Like, how would you bridge that over and mesh the two?
Yeah, I think the analytics are great. You know, I was using the pitcher's edge when that was the thing. Remember, we got that paperwork. Like, I think you're foolish if you don't use them, you know, because there are some like I always believe pitching to your strengths, but sometimes there is a weakness that if you can figure out how to go away from your strength a little bit and go to that hitter's weakness, that it's almost inevitable if you locate, he's out, you know? So it's like having those things, and that all that data is great. It is so great. I also understand paralysis by analysis. Like, too much information sometimes is like, you know, like I mentioned the iPad, a guy hits a home run and then comes in the dugout. First of all, his teammate's now playing, so shouldn't you be watching your teammate and cheering him on? How many times I watched this, we're like, oh, good hit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I get that. I understand. But my biggest thing is that, and you guys know this, and you know this, and you know this, feel. How did you, if I'm the pitching, how did you feel right there? I know what it looked like. Put that away. We all know what it looked like. You just hit a ball that went over the fence, you know? We all know it's a homer. How did you feel? What did you feel? Because the vacuum is different every single pitch. Every single pitch, it is different. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care who you are. You can't repeat it. It's like this, we're chasing this like elusive.
Maddux.
Yes. Like we are. And it's like, because you might have a spin rate, but maybe that curveball, you throw it and it's 2,750 RPMs. But the one you threw before was 2,780. Like, very rarely do you ever throw two pitches the same. And like your bat, you swing and like maybe you're off like a quarter of an inch. And so that it's not a gravity-free world where we're in some, you know, controllable vacuum. It's always, so feel is so important. Yeah. And then that's just within an at-bat, pitching and that. Then you go into like the feel of what's going on in the game, right? Like you see pitchers like Lance Lynn. Look at the back of the baseball card, man. It's always more wins than losses, you know? And it's like, sure, does he give up 3 homers in a game? Yep. He was winning 5-0 and they were all solo homers. That's feel. The most important thing when I walked into this clubhouse today was for us to win the ball game, right? So like, is it better that I strike out 10, you know, and you know, don't pitch as long and we lose the game? And I'm like, but I had great metrics today. No, we lost. Like, that's all that matters. The process of it all is great. So like, I think, you know, sometimes just that feel and having that between a front office and a team and players, that cohesiveness of like, baseball is still baseball. It hasn't changed, right?
No.
It's the same.
There's been, and you've seen it just as much as I have. I came up in 06. There's been a shift in the game as far as what they prioritize, but you were a guy that went 200 innings multiple times. We rarely see that from anybody these days. Why were you able to do that? And you were able to go from reliever to starter and then back and then get 200 innings. So you hear guys talk about how hard that is for those swing guys to be able to do that. What was it that made you able to slide into each role so seamlessly?
Conditioning, for sure. I mean, that was a big part. You know, just routine of conditioning, running my poles. You know, poles I think are a vital thing that's missing in the game. Running a pole is the equivalent of pitching an inning, right? So if you're running a 30-second pole and then you got to take a little break, how do I control my breaths in these moments of stress and get to the point where I got to make a pitch again? Here I go. I got 30-second rest time. You know, on a mound, you got less than that now. But you know what I mean? It's like, so you're controlling that tempo, not to mention what it does for you physically, for your legs, for your arm. You know, sweating that out, that lactic acid. I was a big runner. I was a big lifter. My legs were strong as hell. I mean, I was squatting four plates, you know, in the weight room, you know, as a pitch. Yeah, like I would squat, I would work out before starts. So for probably second half of my career, like once I went back to the starting rotation in 08, I'd do a small lift that if the game was at 7 p.m., at 6 p.m., I'd go to the weight room and I'd lift for 20 minutes.
Just a total body, just getting it going? Wow.
Just like a plate on each side, do 3 sets of squats.
Yeah.
And then when I went out to go warm up, I never warmed up. I never threw to warm up. I always warmed up to throw.
Love that.
So it was like I was ready when, you know, if all of a sudden, it probably came from this dream I always had that I was late for a start. You know, it's just like, it's there. It's there. I'm on the mound. I'm not wearing pants. But I'm there. I'm here. Can I throw? And the umpire's calling time and he's getting a hot dog from somebody. I'm like, the game's about to start. Let me pitch, you know? Yeah. So, and like, I think that was a big part of it. And like the understanding of like, you know, like back to we're elite athletes. Let us be elite athletes, you know? Like, why do we think that rest is always better, you know? We're going to skip your start here, just give you a little rest. Really? Did you ask me? I watched Derek Lee walk down the stairs day after day. I played with him for 12 years of my life. Day after day, I watched him walk down. He'd come in, take his pants off, put his sliding shorts on, go do his routine. And every time he wasn't in the lineup, I watched him walk down the stairs, walk right past his locker, chuck his keys in his top cubby, go right up to the manager's office. And then 10 minutes later, the manager's coach would come down. Yeah, that one would come down. He put a new one up with Derek Lee in there, you know?
Savage.
It's like, I'll tell you when I need a day off.
I'll let you know.
I think we need less days off than we want to control everything. Oh, we can get optimum performance here at this thing if we have this much rest because this wristband says so, and this neck thing that I have on says so, and also the metrics say so. And it's like, cool, maybe I can get somebody out in the 7th, the 3rd time through the lineup.
Right.
If we would teach that, but when we're only going 4 innings in the minor leagues, maybe we teach them how to get 3 times through. But if I go out in the first inning and get 4 pitches and get 3 ground ball outs, my metrics go down. I become less valuable. And I think that's a little confusing. And I think that we should just allow them to go a little bit more.
So I want to ask one quick, on the back of that. Was it your decision or was that a team, we need you to relieve instead of start this year? Or did you say, I want to come in and relieve this year?
I was coming back from Tommy John, and in the rotation was Maddux, Woody, Kerry, Mark Pryor, Zambrano, and Matt Clement. Yeah, we were nasty. Bro.
That'll work. Yeah.
We were like, people don't realize how good the 04 team was coming off the 03 Cubs team. We just tanked it like the last week of the season. We lost 3 of 4 in New York to the Mets. And we were going, and then we came home and lost 3 of 4 to the, got a great Sean Casey story about that. But so I'm coming back from elbow surgery and I'm making like Midwest League All-Star teams. I've been pitching for Lansing for so long, but there's no spot for me. I'm like, where do I pitch? So now I'm in Iowa and I'm starting games and I'm going 4 innings, 5 innings. And I just was like, screw it. I called up Jim Henry. I go, hey, why don't you just put me in the bullpen? And he's like, you do that? Because like my whole contract was based on starts and like I was building back up as a starter, and I was like, well, yeah, I'm not as good as any of those guys. So like, and so then they were like, okay. So then I relieved in 04 for August and September, saved a couple games, but did okay. And so then the next year they're like, you're gonna start. So I started 6 games, and then LaTroy was struggling in the closer's role. Borowski was hurt, and they're like, hey, dude, you relieved pretty well last year. Would you close? And I said, sure. I've always just been a believer. I loved what somebody said the other day. Who was that? Schwarber. When he said, I'm just a player. I'm not a manager. I'm not a coach. Wherever they put me in the lineup, I get paid to play baseball and I'm going to do whatever. That's how I've always approached that. So like, oh, you want me to be the closer? Cool. And like, kudos to Jim Henry. He did my contract and said for games finished, like changed it from game starts to game finish, like really, yeah, awesome. No doubt, you know, like, and so then it was easy, and it was like, and I had a dynamite year closing, like 33 of 35. My only 2 blown saves, we won. So like I had 0 losses on the mound as a closer.
Hell yeah.
It was, oh yeah.
Where did this come from? Someone get
Millar.
You tipped in? Millar.
Yeah, well, Bedard. So do you remember Bedard kind of moved his glove a little bit?
Yeah.
Right. I
was throwing on the bullpen at the backfield. Tyler Colvin, it was before spring training started. Tyler Colvin was standing in. And so when I as a closer, I picked up a split. I never threw him before. And so I was always thrown out of the stretch. Well, when I went to the starting rotation, I'm standing facing the hitter. I had to pre-dig for my split. And so when I'd come out of my split, my forearm would move. And Colvin's like, I don't know if you're fastball or slider, but I know it's not a split anymore. So I'm like, man. So I went up to Millar's house that night. He had a place down the street from me. And I'm like, what do I do here, dude? And he's like, Bedard kind of wiggles his glove a little. Next thing you know, I had Tourette's of the glove. I'm just like, just
in high school,
crazy. Yeah, and it was never like meant to distract or annoy the hitter or anything. It was just so that they couldn't pick that up.
Oh,
yeah, kind of crazy. And then I'm like walking my kid in a wagon one day, and we're walking by this field in Chicago, and there's these kids out there, and this little kid's like wiggling. He's like,
it's the Dempster.
Ryan Dempster.
Yes.
You hear that, son?
Yeah. I'm still cool.
That's right. Yeah.
That's awesome. Couple more fun ones, Deb. You're the man. Millar, you guys obviously kill Intentional Talk, man. That is hilarious. It's it is my favorite show on IT with Sierra too. But Millar, there's a funny clip of Millar when he tells you the game plan against Bonds. You go over that one for us. That's, I mean, pure comedy, dude.
Incredible, man. And like, that's where Kevin was so good. Like, I also believe he's a big reason why those teams, all those guys ended up playing as long as they did. Like, he was always into team building. He was always into relationship. He was always into honesty. And he was just great. It was brutal honesty, you know, like he would do all kinds of stuff in the clubhouse that was inappropriate, but somehow you're like, this is funny, you know?
It works.
Yeah. And you know, stuff like I remember one time we were going to Pittsburgh, and he's like, hey, team dinner at Morton's, we're all going to Morton's. And Alex Gonzalez, you know, he's Venezuelan, and he goes, Morton's, steakhouse, you know, Millar Steakhouse. And he's like, oh, really? Okay. Gets on the mic. Hey guys, Alex Gonzalez is going to pick out a restaurant. We're all going to Venezuelan food instead. So be ready. I'll let you know where we're going. and he found a place in Pittsburgh. We went to a Latin restaurant. Like, boom, we're family. Like, let's go, you know. And I just love that about him. So we're in Bonds is in the middle of hitting homers off of everybody that throw it over the plate, and and at this point now it was like summertime, and he was kind of getting pitched around a lot, like just never getting thrown to, you know. And I'm getting ready to go out the dugout to start the bottom of the first. And as I'm coming, like my jersey pulls me back on the step, and I turn around and Millar's right there, and he's like, hey, you don't got any hair on your nuts if you don't throw Barry Bonds 4-seam fastballs down the middle and find out what you got. And I'm like, oh, shit. All right, okay. So I get the first two guys out, and here comes Barry, you know, dun, 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 you know, last episode's playing, the whole crowd's going nuts. Barry hasn't even done his shoes up because we're just gonna walk him. You know? And dude, the at bat, if you watch the at bat, I throw first pitch fastball right down the middle, and he's like, oh shit, I'll tighten this up then. You know?
We're really doing this, huh?
Yeah,
we're
gonna do this. Throw another one, fouls it straight back. Like he just missed hitting a homer. He didn't just miss rolling over. You know? And then I throw the next one, 4-seam fastball, like 95, right down the middle. And he tattoos it off the top right corner of the right center wall for a triple. Hits like the very top, kicks off, goes this way, you know. And I'm just like, and then I come back and he's like, man, you should have got your stuff in Mexico, you know? It was just really funny, like a pure moment of watching dominance happen. But also, I love that.
Yeah.
I wish that in my career, I would have done more of that.
Hell yeah.
Looking back, like now being away from it, hitting is hard, man. You guys are good. No, seriously, like.
But you're right, dude. A little internal game battle, whatever that is, you need that over the course of 162. Or that pull from Millar. It's like, okay, let's do it. I'll go. You know?
And just the mentality of like, find out.
Yeah.
You know, like find out. I remember shooter Rob Beck, man, God rest his soul. One day I was talking to him about in 04, he was with us in the minor leagues, had a trailer set up. He had a camper outside of our clubhouse. That's where he stayed. I swear to God, it was unbelievable. And he had a light on. So if the light on was on, come have beers with Rod Beck. Des Moines, Iowa. If the light's off, I'm sleeping. I already had too many beers. You know?
Already too many beers.
And I was like, and I was talking to him about, you know, closing, and because now I was going into the whole reliever thing, and you know, just like, what's your mentality? And he's like, you know, Ryan, he goes, how many times you ever grab a 4-seam fastball straight across the middle of the seams like that, and with everything you got, throw it as hard as you can right down the middle? How many times that ball get hit? And I was like, conviction, huh? Like, it's the truth. Like. I throw pitches down the middle, they get hit, but there's not some conviction behind it. When it's like aura and energy and conviction behind, here it is, you know? And that was kind of that Barry Bonds moment earlier in my career, but like kind of rechecking myself, like, yeah, man, like if I was ever just not throwing strikes, it wasn't because I was afraid of the hitter. It was just because I just couldn't throw strikes that day, you know?
On the other side of the ball, too, it's like, me and Haas would game plan all the time. He'd be like, all right, Moosey, what's he got today? I'm like, you're just better than him, bud. That's all it is today. You're just better than him. Just be better. Just be better.
The fastball story reminds me, we were in Toronto when Donaldson was going on his run, man, like MVPs and the bringer of rain. And one of our guys, our reliever, comes in, throws 3 heaters, gets him out. He's the third out of the inning, and he's helmet down or whatever. And someone tells me, he just looked at, I forget who it was, and he goes, is my name on the back of my shirt? And the guy's like, yeah, what do you mean? He goes, this guy just threw 3 fastballs. I'm like, dude, that's one of the best lines I've ever heard, man. That's incredible. Deb, Innings Fest, man.
Yeah.
Arizona, something you guys been doing for a long time. Give us a little background on that. We're fired up for it.
It's awesome. I'm super fired up to have you guys too. Yeah. It's going to be great. It started, Tim Sweetwood, a good friend of mine, started this festival in 2018. As a baseball music festival, right? Because we were talking about, he's like, they just go together like so, you know, seamlessly and like symbiotically, where it's like, you know, walk-up songs and entrance songs and all these kind of things, like, and music. And so we were like, oh, cool, we'll have a baseball activation, and then we'll have 2 stages, and you have, you know, headlining acts, and throughout the day you can come over the baseball. There's batting cages you can hit at, players are making appearances. Then I came in 2018 with Jim Tomey, and we did some interviews backstage, kind of like this. We interviewed Chris Stapleton and a couple the Baseball Project, a couple bands. And then I just approached him. I said, hey, I do this talk show thing, you know, and I sent him some clips of the Cubs conventions, ones I've done. And he's like, this is a great idea. Let's do this. So we set up a stage. And over time, it's morphed. We do that. We've had like Jake Peavy and his boys coming with a band. They've done that. Bronson Arroyo brought his band. They played a full set, like a 40-minute set there. And so we try to show that. Like yesterday, we had Cole Tucker on. Cole Tucker shreds the drums.
Does he?
And so I'm like, you play the drums, what do you play? And John, our drummer, never gets like the center of attention other than just being like he never gets to sing. And I'm like, John, can he sit in? He played My Hero, Foo Fighters.
Oh,
that's sick.
And like crushed it, dude. Like totally crushed it. It was awesome. And so like that's what we're trying to show, much like this, is like there's more to us than just baseball. It's who we are, for sure. Like we can't run from the fact that we're here because of baseball, but it doesn't define who we are. And it's like, there's so many other things in that festival. We love to do that. So we have interviews like, today we have you guys on, and Jess Mendoza's coming on, and Jack's Mannequin, The Kills, Allison and Jamie from The Kills are coming on, and Dave Roberts is going to come on. And then afterwards, you guys will see, you go there and it's just awesome music. Like last night, Fall Out Boy's shooting off fireworks and all kinds of stuff. I watched the Black Keys kill it, Yeah, like it was awesome. And like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Beck, but don't miss that show because he is, he's like the new Prince. That's my call.
Wow.
Plays all the instruments, moves all around the stage. He's like this big, he's like Pedroia. He's like about that big,
Gotta be stands on his wallet.
Yeah, totally. Stuff him in overhead comfort.
Yeah.
Overhead
The Petey story
plane.
that Dustin, when he did that improv, the stand-up, where Poppy's like, he just called me.
Yeah. Dude, my favorite Pedroia story, we're in New York, right? And this is why, like, preparation and wanting to be great. We're in New York and we're in the clubhouse in the new stadium, New Yankee Stadium, and he's over there eating a peanut butter jelly with an orange soda and a total Little League like pregame meal, He's got his chips and everything. He's just eating his sandwich, and he's full uni. It's 6:05, 7:05 game, and he's full uni. And we're like, what? Dude, are you doing, you got a top shoot? Is that what you're doing? As a tops guy here? Man, it's picture day today, guys. Like, we're just, and he's not saying anything. We're like, wait, you and Kelly are doing your Christmas cards. We get it. We're just like busting his chops nonstop, and he's not saying anything. And he's just sitting there, and it's like me, Buckholz, Rossi, Lackey, Lester. We're just burying him.
Oh my God, what a crew.
And we're just burying him.
I don't think I can.
He finishes his sandwich, takes a chug of his orange crush, he throws it in the trash, and he looks over and goes, hey guys, if the game starts right now, you know who's batting leadoff? Me, because I'm ready. I'm like, I love you, man. I love you.
Oh man, Kinsler, when he was over there, he said after every hitters meeting, Petey would just yell, "Attack!"
Yeah,
he brought that over to San Diego, dude.
Dude, he's just always ready. You're never not ready. Never not ready. Absolute legend, and injuries just stopped him from the, maybe he gets in one day, I don't know, but I mean, he was on his way to the Hall of Fame,
Oh yeah, I mean,
from a bat boy at Arizona State, running around, telling the coach, can I shag? As a 9-year-old, can I shag? Can I shag? And then, can I hit? And then that's
how it got going.
Yeah, it just keeps going and keeps going.
You remember the story when he was telling us about when he was hitting second and then he was hitting fourth?
Similar thing, man. We were Kansas City and
It was
early hitting,
unbelievable.
right?
Yeah.
I remember that one. So he was, you want to tell it?
No, I don't really remember it as well, so.
I didn't want to story swipe him.
No, go ahead.
It was Kansas City. We were hitting early BP around, I think it was like 12:30. Petey in the dugout, full uniform, taping a bat. And Mike Aviles, we played with him a couple years before. He's out there, we're talking to him, and we're like, dude, it's like 12:30. What's Pedroia doing with his full jersey on? He's like, oh no, bro, that's every day. And we're like, you think we can meet him? And he comes over, shakes our hand, whatever. So he starts telling us all these stories, and he told us a story about when Bobby Valentine had him hitting in the 4-hole, and he put the bunt sign on, and Petey was like, nah, dude, I'm going to the moon. And he goes and whacks it, whatever. Next day, Bobby calls him in the office, and he's like, Petey, I put the bunt sign on. What's the deal? He goes, Bobby, listen. He goes, if I'm hitting 2-hole, I'll give you the bunt sign. When I'm hitting 4-hole, that's my time. It's my time. I'm like, I love this guy.
Yeah, dude.
To the moon.
Yeah, no doubt. You couldn't, and to this day, if I probably FaceTimed him right now, he'd probably pick up. He just is always there, always a true friend, and just like an epitome of a great teammate. Coming to the ballpark for no other reason to whoop your ass, man. And I'm not holding back anything. I don't care how small I am. I'm bigger than you on this field. And it's just so much fun to be around. And just the banter he would always do. I mentioned Middlebrooks. Will, he's now married. Jenny Dell and him are married. So Jenny was working on the sideline, and they were just kind of starting to date. And she was in the camera well in Minnesota, and we were playing a shift on Morneau, and so Will slid all the way over from third base, and Petey's way in the hole. And there's kind of a chopper. Morneau hits a soft chopper kind of in that spot where if Will just moves to his left and gets it, but Petey comes swooping in in front of him, throws him out at first. And we get in the dugout. He goes, hey, Will. And you're like, what? He goes, stop looking at your
girlfriend and get a break on a fucking ball. And he goes, I was paying attention. He goes, I took 5 steps before you moved. You know? And I'm just like, this dude, we're winning. We can't not win. Look at what we have, you know?
We can't not win.
Yes.
Dude, there was press play, right? I feel like Napoli
press
brought
play.
that.
It already happened, man. Let's go. Let's go get it.